Hi everyone, my name is Manal Faiz and you're watching From Scratch. On today's episode of From Scratch, we're making a roux. And we're gonna discuss different uses of roux. We're gonna make a really delicious dish of the day. It's going to be a mac and cheese flavored with truffle. I have a very special guest with me today. Her name is Chef Diana. Hi, Chef. How are you?
I'm good.
So we're gonna be working together to show you guys how to make a roux from scratch. For today, what you're gonna need is equal quantities of butter and flour, and that's it. It's super simple, super easy. A roux is actually, Chef, something that we learn from scratch always at the beginning of culinary school. It's the very basics, and it's a very versatile thing to use. What we could use roux for is for many things. Could you give me examples of what you could use roux for?
Yeah, as you said, it's one of the basic things we learn. You could use it to thicken sauce, thicken soup, and the more you cook the roux, the different colors you obtain it. Yeah, it depends on the end result that you want. Of how you are going to use the roux. Exactly.
So just like Chef Diana said, with different cooking degrees, you'll get different colors and different flavors. The more you cook it for, the nuttier the flavor will be. So basically, it's super easy. All you're gonna do to start off is take a pan, switch on your stove, and grab your butter. And again, these are equal quantities. If you want to increase the amount, you could go up and scale up. So I've got around 50 grams over here, or 100 grams, and I've got 100 grams of flour. So super simple, equal quantities. And Chef Diana is actually gonna help me out with lowering down our flour.
Yeah, we'll just wait for the butter to completely melt and then add the flour.
Exactly. So again, this is super easy. You could actually make this ahead of time. What you could do is mix together your butter and flour, a raw paste, mix it together ahead of time and put it in your fridge. And you could pull it out whenever you need to.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So usually
and slowly whisk it in the sauce or the soup to thicken.
Exactly. And you could even cook it to your desired color when it's mixed together as a paste. So what we're doing is just gently melting the butter. And you want to do this very gradually, and you want to make sure that you have a whisk to start off. And this is only to eliminate the chances of the flour from forming little clumps.
Yeah.
Exactly, yes.
You want the whole flour to be completely combined with the butter.
Exactly. So this is almost nice and melted. So as we said, there are different colors to roux. So you've got a white roux, a blonde roux, a brown roux, and a dark brown roux. So with those different colors gives you different flavors depending on your end result. If you want something that's more colored, then I would say opt for a darker roux, and that's also going to give you a very nice depth of flavor. So this is nice and melted. What Chef Diana exactly, just very gradually, and what you want to do is whisk it through. So what you could do is whisk it through using an 8 motion, just like this, or an infinity motion. Yeah, it's going. Perfect. So you never want to use a roux that has not been exposed to heat.
The heat cooks off the flour.
Exactly.
The flour taste.
Exactly. You never want to eat it just straight up with raw flour and raw butter. You want to give it some exposure to heat to cook off that floury flavor. So I'm going to switch out from using a whisk right now to a spatula. And we're going to continue with that 8 motion, just like so. And we're gonna keep this going on the heat, and we're gonna show you guys the different stages of a roux on camera. So it's gonna take a while, but this is very important for you to understand, just because there is a huge chance for someone to mess up a roux, even though it's something that's super simple.
So the first thing that the base is correct is to know that you have equal parts butter and flour without measuring. It's more of a dough texture versus a watery texture.
Exactly, that is true. And you'll also notice when you first start off, your roux is going to be quite solid, just like you see. Towards the end of your cooking, when you reach a very dark brown, what's going to happen is the texture is actually going to change. It's going to turn into a more softer, more liquidy consistency. So it's really versatile. Again, roux can be used in many different things. Roux tends to be quite heavy though. So if you are more onto the healthier side of cooking, this is not for you.
But you can replace the butter with healthier options.
Exactly, you are correct. You can. There are many different other fats that you could use instead of butter. Some of the uses are, you could use, for example, olive oil, even though it's not a traditional way that you could swap out the butter. Olive oil can be used. It's just any form of fat.
Yeah. And the flour also can be substituted with healthier versions. Instead of like all-purpose flour, you can use whole wheat flour.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is. It's super, again, it solely depends on what you would like as an end result. That is going to be solely up to you. It's just you have to have some sort of flour and some sort of fat that you use to make a thickening agent, just like a roux. You want to be careful as well with your heat. You don't want to go too high with the heat and risk going a bit too far.
And the constant turning and stirring ensures that a part is not burnt and a part is being cooked. You get an even cooking on all sides.
Exactly. So we're now on to a different stage.
Yeah, definitely changed color now.
Exactly.
So for this dark brown gravy, roux, you would thicken a gravy.
Exactly.
Because you would want a deep brown color at the end.
Exactly. So it's the same with, you'll notice this with a lot of different cooking techniques. For example, if you've got a white stock to make, all the vegetables that you would opt for would be a lighter color. So it's the same here as well. If you are going to have an end result with a darker color, you would opt for something that's darker in color as well. So for our main dish of today, what we're making is a mac and cheese that is actually flavored with some truffle oil. For our mac and cheese, we wouldn't want to achieve this type of coloring, but what we want to do is get it nice and get that flour cooked off. So we're going to show you guys that as well, how to do that when you're ready to combine it with the rest of the ingredients. So
you want the very early stages of making the roux, which is the white or the blonde.
Exactly.
Just have the flour cooked off.
Yes. So we are almost done over here. Just gonna give it one last swirl. I don't really like to go more than this. I have seen people going more than this, but I think it tends to add in more of a burnt flavor.
Yeah.
I think this is a perfect color that you want to achieve, just like so.
Dark brown.
Exactly, just a dark brown stage. And what you could do is either use it straight away by adding in your liquid, or what you could do is transfer it to a different container and cool it down and use it on a separate day. That's it on our roux. What we're gonna do after the break is we're gonna start cooking our mac and cheese. Welcome back, everyone. So we've got all our ingredients ready for our mac and cheese. For that, what you're gonna need is some breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs is only gonna be used towards the end. We're gonna have some butter to make our roux together with our flour. Keep in mind these are equal quantities. We've got some milk, chopped rosemary that's going to be used as well towards the end. We've got some grated cheddar cheese, macaroni, elbow macaroni, pepper, salt, and a bit of truffle oil. To get started, what we're gonna do is start off on our mac and cheese sauce. Exactly, so we're gonna start off with making the roux. So again, super simple. What we're gonna do is we're gonna grab a whisk to start off, and what we're gonna do is lower down our butter. So we could go ahead and do that. So all you're waiting to do is for your butter to nicely melt down. You don't want to brown any sort of, or give your butter any sort of browning. What's going to happen is if you prefer to have it browned, you would do that towards the end with the butter added. For this recipe, we don't want any sort of browning to happen. What you want to do is only cook off the flour. Right, let's go ahead and add the flour. So you're adding in the flour, and then straight away you want to make sure you get that nice and mixed together. So I'm gonna get this nice and cooked off. You want to keep a timer for around 3 up to 5 minutes. You want to make sure that flour gets nice and cooked off, just because it will later on change the flavor as well.
If it's not, yes.
Exactly. So you really don't want any sort of raw flour added to your end result or end dish. So we're just gonna get this nice and cooked off for around 3 to 5 minutes. So basically a good sign for you to know that the butter and the flour have been properly exposed to heat is you want to wait until that flour kind of puffs up, or your roux basically puffs up like we saw before the break. So I'm just gonna wait until it reaches that stage, and then we're gonna start with streaming in our milk. So you could tell that that flour is starting to puff up simply by stopping to whisk, and you'll see that it's starting to kind of rise. So this is our sign to start adding in the milk. So very gentle streaming. You want to go very gradually while
it takes a bit of muscle.
Exactly.
At this stage
It
before
really
it
does.
turns like liquid.
That's true.
And then as soon as it's all mixed in well, it will be
Very easy
a
and
soft texture.
exactly. Yeah, you could add all of it in. There we go. So key is always to gradually stream in your milk or any liquid of some sort, and you're gonna get a very nice end result of a lump-free liquid. So again, our roux is here for the purpose of thickening. Not only will your roux be thickening as well, you've got some cheese that is also going to provide some thickening agents. Not only will your cheese thicken up your sauce, it's also going to add a lot of really delicious flavor. So what I'm going to do is let this cook while constantly stirring for around 3 to 4 minutes, just so I could get the milk nice and warm again. And then we're going to start with adding in our cheese. So that's nice and thick. What we're gonna do is add in our cheese, and that's gonna happen a little at a time. You don't want to dump in the full amount of cheese. Just like the milk, you want to slowly emulsify it into your liquid. Yeah. Again, room temperature ingredients is going to really help.
It's also important to have your cheese already grated.
Exactly.
So it melts in straight away into the milk.
Exactly, I agree.
One more stir.
Okay.
another spoon?
Yeah, we could go ahead with another spoon. We're gonna reserve just a little bit for garnish. So what we're gonna do right now is add a pinch of salt and some black pepper as well. And I usually prefer adding some cracked black pepper instead of powdered black pepper. It really does give a huge difference in taste. And you wanna be careful with adding the salt as well. You don't wanna add too much just because the cheese does pack a lot of salt. What's gonna happen right now is we're gonna keep on stirring this. What I have over here is a pot of water that is boiling. I'm gonna increase the heat to a very high heat to get a proper rolling boil. What I'm gonna do is salt it very generously. This is very important to keep in mind. You always wanna salt your pasta water very generously. And next, what we're gonna do is add in our pasta, get it cooked here. So this is just going to be lowered down into your boiling water. And again, keep in mind, you don't want to oil your pasta water. Oil is only going to cover up those pieces of pasta and prevent the sauce from actually sticking onto your pasta. So while our pasta is continuing to cook, I think that's a perfect time for us to chat. So Chef Diana, could you tell us a bit about your background?
I originally have a bachelor's degree in pharmacy, but I've always had a passion for cooking. I used to always like gather my friends around, and that was way back when I was in high school and university. And then later on, I decided to pursue this as a career. So I went on and I had obtained a culinary diploma, and it's been
the rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history. Yeah, I've worked in various culinary related jobs, consultancy, and creating recipes, giving cooking classes. So yeah, I think I've never looked back.
I think that's really great to say. I mean, Chef Diana, we've known her for a very long time here at the Institute, and she gives really awesome classes. Her classes are always super fun. So we're super happy to have Chef Diana with us.
Pleasure is mine.
So what is left to do right now is our pasta is almost done. Actually, it is done. What we're gonna do is swap out from using our whisk to use our spatula. Yes, thank you. So as I said, the texture is basically gonna get perfect once you ladle in your pasta straight from the water right into the sauce. So you may think that this texture of the sauce is a bit too thick. Well, don't fear. All you're gonna do is add in your pasta just like so.
This water will thin out the sauce.
Exactly. So just like this, we're just gonna grab all of our pasta from the water.
Or do you want me to mix that?
Yeah, please do that. You also want to make sure that you don't add in too much of that water. You just want the residual amount that is kind of coating the pasta to thin out the sauce. So that's the also importance of having your pasta water that is nice and salted, is because you're also adding in that water, correct? So you don't want that water to change the flavor of your sauce. So very nicely salted water for your pasta is key.
It looks great and smells great.
Yes, I agree. I second that. So that's all. We're going to grab our ramekins right over here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna ladle in a good amount right into our containers. You can skip the step if you want to. You don't really have to put it in the oven, but we really want to get a nice and golden crust right on top.
The breadcrumbs does give it a very nice texture at the end.
I agree.
Spoon in, yeah.
So not too much. You don't want this as well to overflow. So this is a perfect amount, just like so. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our breadcrumbs, a bit of that reserved cheese. We're gonna top it off, pop it in our oven on a broiler setting. So basically a super high heat, very close to your heat source to get a nice golden crust. Breadcrumbs right on top. I like my mac and cheese very cheesy, so I'm just a little bit extra with the cheese. So if you don't...
Nothing else. Extra cheese.
Exactly. I agree with that. And that's why if you also don't like this amount of cheese, you could really reduce it down. Or you could even omit adding some cheese on the top. So what we're gonna do is just put this in a preheated oven in a broiler setting. So I'm gonna grab these and pop them right in. So what we're gonna do right now is just wait for them to get a very nice golden brown color. And then what we're gonna do is garnish and serve. So I'll see you guys after the break. So our mac and cheese has been in the oven for around 10-ish minutes. You just want to wait until your crust has developed a really beautiful golden brown color. So that's about it for us. I'm gonna grab them out of the oven. So you also want to make sure that your containers that you're gonna put in the oven are oven-proof as well. So they look beautiful.
They look and smell beautiful.
Oh yes. So what's left to do is just garnish, and when we are gonna garnish, you wanna leave that truffle oil towards the end, just because truffle oil does tend to leave it, or tend to get that truffle oil flavor removed completely when you cook it down. So you don't wanna cook that truffle oil. What you wanna do is add it towards the end. So what I'm gonna do is garnish with some freshly chopped rosemary. And Chef Diana is going to
truffle oil.
Exactly. And there you have it, our final dish of the day. Thank you so much, Chef Diana. I had so much fun today. We made a truffle mac and cheese from scratch using our roux. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys learned something. I'll see you guys next time on From Scratch.